G'day, it's Peter from the Music Room, uh, as I've now calling my channel. I'm making this video in response to an entry to a Christian's at CGC Vinyl's competition. It's a genre competition, a rather interesting one too, actually. So, without further ado, I'll get on with it. Thank you, Christian, for the opportunity as well. This is actually, it's fun making these videos, and there's now the second one that I've entered. Uh, Competition type videos. Okay, so the first, basically it's 365, right? So three of different genres, different, could be three of something, three of, whatever you want it to be. Okay, Christian explains it a lot better than I am at the moment. I'm kind of flubbing it, but first I'll go with three. Okay, now my three, and it's out of left field. This is the Nuggets 2 box set, which is an international stuff from the 60s, garage rock, psych, punk, whatever, from Rhino Records. I've decided to go with three singles that I've got that are on this box set. So, firstly, in no particular order, Masters Apprentices, War or Hands of Time. That's an Australian Astor label 45. Masters Apprentices were a legendary rock pop band. Went at the psychedelic a little bit later. This one and Undecided, which is on the other side of it, are more the harder reach tracks. They had tracks like Living in a Child's Dream later on. Turn Up Your Radio, which is a real raucous 70s rock track. Unbelievable, great track. And also Because I Love You, which is a beautifully tender track, which has a nice crescendo chorus in it. So, yeah, I'm rambling, but that's Masters Apprentices. Next one, The Pretty Things. These are all Australian pressings, apart from one. That's The Pretty Things, Midnight to Six Man, Australian Philips label. The Pretty Things I never got into originally, but I've discovered them since in recent years. UK blues, rhythm and blues band, much like the Stones and a whole lot of other bands of that genre. I think they actually predated the Stones in a way, I believe, led by Dick Taylor. But yeah, that's The Pretty Things, You're Not the Six Man. And then the legendary Easy Beats from Australia as well. Friday on My Mind, which is the big 45, the big single they had. Unfortunately, they had trouble following that up. There was a hit in England, I believe a hit in America as well. That's the Australian pressing. I've also kind of thrown in the New Zealand pressing as well, which is quite unique. I love New Zealand labels. They have a nice different look about them. New Zealand, these New Zealand records were distributed by HMV, which was the EMI equivalent in New Zealand. Australia, New Zealand. But yeah, that was their big one. But a couple of tracks, a couple of singles later, they had trouble following it. But then Good Times followed up about 3 singles later. If they could have done that straight away, but it would be a different story. But anyway, there's that. So it comes to the sixth category. The sixth category for me is 6 Australian bands or artists or the bands particularly who they've lost a member or two along the way. Unfortunately, we've lost them along the way. Also be a solo artist. The last item is actually going to be a solo artist. Anyway, so the first one is the Easy Beats. Again, the Easy Beats. We've lost here Georgie Young and Stevie Wright, singer and guitarist. Georgie Young, we know from the Vander Young team that went on to produce AC/DC and Angels and a whole lot of other bands with other productions. But yeah, we've lost those 2 members there. Cold Chisel, legendary band. The member lost here is Steve Presswich, the drummer. Fantastic drummer. with Chisholm, rock solid. Steve was the drummer right there. This is on the Swing Shift live album. Great live album to hear. But that the one, I love his bare bones approach to drumming. He's simple kit, but just a real solid foundation for the band. Steve also, I believe, had a stint in LRB, Little River Band, as well, at one point. The Angels. Dr. Neeson, the lead singer. Flamboyant, charismatic lead singer, great voice, outrageous stage presence, fantastic band. The Angels were, again, another legendary Australian band that unfortunately didn't get success overseas the way they should have. In America, you may know them as Angel City. They had to change the name because there was another band called Angel over there back in the day. Angel were a kind of a heavy hard rock band, recorded with Casablanca. Anyway, the Angels, Dr. Neeson. Sherbet. This is actually one of the first albums I ever bought with my own money. Sherbet lost along the way. Sherbet were an Australian pop rock group, major force in Australian rock back in the 70s, into the 80s, but more so in the 70s. Here they've lost Clive James and also his replacement, Clive Shakespeare, sorry. Clive Shakespeare did the songwriting with Garth Porter for most of their hits, these two here. But Clive was replaced by Harvey James, who also unfortunately passed away a while ago. Metal as Anything. Metal as Anything are a great quirky garage band, pub band. Member lost here is Greedy Smith, keyboardist, pianist, vocalist. They were a great band. I've saw them once or twice in a couple of pubs around the place. Really great band, very Australian band. And lastly, but certainly not least, we only lost her last week, Renee Gayer. Probably the best female vocalist Australia's ever produced, I think, without doubt. The sings blues soul, sang blues soul. This is an album she did with the Kevin Burridge Express, for the most part. An album called Blues Lights, but she had a number of hits, Heading in the Right Direction, If Loving You Is Wrong, and did a killer cover version of It's a Man's Made World, made it her own, pretty much. First time I ever heard that song was through Renee's version. Unfortunately, we lost her a week ago. Thereabouts. So it's been a sad few days for the music world. Now what with Dave Crosby and Jeff Beck as well, Robbie Bachman, Renee, not to be outdone, Renee Gayer. Can't say too much more about her vocal presence. Unbelievable. Check out her duet with Cole Chisel on their live version of Really Mountain High. But also check out her albums. They're great. Okay, which brings us to the 5 in this thing. Back in 1988, I went through a personal thing with a marriage breakup, and I came back to a long story, but along the way I discovered a shop called Time Warp Records, and in that shop I discovered a label called Rhino Records, which most of you will know is a US reissue label. Now, through that label, it introduced me to a lot of new things, and some older things as well. But I'm going to give you 5 examples of Rhino Records that a series that they produced along the way, plus one band a compilation of that introduced me as well. First, I'm going to go with Sun Story. A Sun Story. A lot of the stuff I hadn't heard before. I knew Elvis. I knew Johnny Cash. I didn't know Johnny Cash had recorded with Sun. I didn't know Roy Orbison had recorded with Sun. Right. I knew Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis had done so. This introduced me to a whole lot more. Carl Perkins, Junior Parker, Roy Orbison, as we know, Charlie Rich, right? Carl Mann, a whole lot of great raw rock and roll, which was something I needed in my life at that time. It was great to hear it. So yeah, this is a great double LP compilation. I've got back there's a Sun series, Sun single series, 6 CD box sets. Yeah, that's pretty complete as well. It's from Bear Family, but this was important in my life. Bear Family. Rhino also had a knack of bringing out some rather unusual compilations. This is Beatle Originals. This is original versions of the Beatles songs, Beatles cover versions, right? Things like Long Tall Sally, Boys, And I Go to Him, Matchbox, Dizzy Miss Lizzy, Slow Down, Mr. Moonlight, Words of Love, Act Naturally. A lot of this stuff I hadn't heard before. The Denays, Devil in His Heart, I'd never heard before. I'd never heard Larry Williams' version of Dizzy Miss Lizzy or Slow Down, which actually appear as they're actually a single, A and B side of a single. Sorry, Bad Boy, I think it's one of those tracks. Actually, it's three Larry Williams tracks on this song, but now 2 of them are on a 45 that I've got here. Little Richard's Kansas City, Hey 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 Hey, Mr. Moonlight by Dr. Feelgood in interns, Act Naturally by Buck Owens, Honey Don't by Carl Perkins. So a lot of things are missing from this. Chuck Berry's not here. We don't have Motown. We don't have a couple of other things that they covered. But these are the more obscure, for want of a better term. Yeah, and it's great to have them because it opens my musical world a bit more. Now I know where the Beatles got their inspiration from. So these the Shirelles Boys, another one. So yeah, that was an important record to have for me, being the Beatles fan that I am. Soul Shots. This was 11 volumes of soul music that wasn't Motown or Atlantic, among other labels. But Motown or Atlantic, were big labels at the time. You got people like Shirley Ellis, Tell Mama, Hard to Handle by Patty Drew. You got Ike and Tina Turner. You've got Gloria Jones, A Tainted Love, her version of that. Rescue Me by Fontella Bass. A whole lot of great female vocalists on here that probably aren't familiar to a lot of people, right? There's 11 volumes, takes some blues, female soul, dance party stuff, a whole lot of different volumes, okay? Instrumental as well. There is a blues volume as well. So yeah, this is a fantastic series, and I love cover notes. I love their cover notes. Just amazing stuff. So I'm glad to discover Rhino Records. Another one that they did was a series called Nuggets, which was 12 volumes. And this took in pop, rock, psychedelia, a whole lot of different things, a whole lot of different volumes in here. Modelled on the original Nuggets double album that came out, I think in 1970, early 70s. I can't remember offhand. I don't know offhand. I never actually had seen the original album before. But this is modelled on that. This actually has a lot of tracks that beyond that double album. Rhino would go on also to follow that up later on with, where is it? Can't put my hands on it right now. but it's the Nuggets box set, the 4 CD, the 4 CD American one, which is the companion to that. It had the 27 tracks from the original album plus a whole lot more. So yeah, if nothing else, Rhino are very educational. And the last one in this category, a group called the Neville Brothers, who I'd never ever heard of before. Aaron Neville had an original single with Tell It Like It Is. The first time I ever heard that song was by heart in the early 80s. The early 80s, maybe late 70s. But a Hearts version was the first one I heard. So I had no idea that Aaron had done it. I had no idea who these guys were. But, and the fact that they had so much history behind them, groups like the Meters, which I wasn't familiar with. I've since got myself a compilation. But Art, Aaron, Cyril and Charles Neville were the four who'd had careers along the way, and then eventually joined up at the end. And the last LP on this, the last chart on this LP is all Neville Brothers stuff. It takes in up to, I think we said 1985. There is an accompanying volume which I've got on CD. Okay, but yeah, this is just thoroughly amazing and quite enjoyable. I was surprised at how good it was. Alright, so I've got it as a blind buy. That's the insert. Extensive line on there, it's the whole thing, so the beauty of labels like Rhino, labels like Raven here in Australia. There's a few others. Aztec Music now doing reissues of Australian albums as well. So yeah, these labels are important. Bear Family in Germany. So yeah, very important for a collector. If you're someone like me who, like I said, at the time I discovered these, I was going through a situation where I threw myself back into music, became a collector proper, as opposed to just buying records willy-nilly, and discovered new things along the way, which is really important in my life at the time. It was very, very therapeutic and very, very helpful at the time. Anyway, enough about that. Some of it's personal, yeah. So anyway, that wraps up those. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and maybe learnt something from it, if nothing else. Thank you again to Christian at CGC for this opportunity. This is my entry, and I'll wrap it up by saying ciao. Cheers, guys. Stay safe wherever you are. It's raining here in Sydney at the moment. It's Sunday morning. So take care. Bye all.